Okay, hey everyone. Welcome to this Keptn community meeting. Today it's August 13th. We're just a couple of days away from our KubeCon and Cloud Native conference starting next week. It will be a virtual experience. And if you happen to be at this KubeCon and Cloud Native Con, make sure to also visit our Keptn booth. We have our own booth. It will be open each day from Monday to Thursday. Yeah, we are happy to have discussions there. If you don't have time for the KubeCon and cannot attend, then we also have our Slack channel, either in the CNCF Slack workspace or on slack.keptn.sh, where you can also join us. If you want to contribute to Keptn, it's the same way as always. We have a list of good first issues that you can find here in our GitHub, or if you want to explore them on goodfirstissue.dev, please go ahead and do so. One last kind of announcement: if you want to get weekly updates directly into your inbox, in your mail inbox, then please go ahead and join us in our Keptn mailing list. It's on a Google group, and with this link you can join us and get weekly updates on the Keptn project directly to your inbox. Since we have a couple of new folks joining, I would suggest that we already discussed a little bit before the recording, and we had some questions, and we know that we have some people joining around how to integrate with Keptn, and also how to do auto remediation with Keptn. I think, so I'm not sure how long the list for the noteworthy issues and PRs will be. Johannes, do you have an overview? Should we first go through the list of noteworthy issues and PRs and then discuss a little bit around the capabilities of Keptn when it comes to tool integrations, like Gabriel is working on Ansible Tower, and then we have a couple of folks interested in the capabilities of auto remediation with Keptn. Then probably after the noteworthy issues and PRs, we can have a little bit of a discussion.
Yeah, I would suggest going this way. Talking about the things that happened this week, and then do follow-up questions when there are some.
Perfect. So then I will hand it over to Ermin, and as Johannes already suggested, please put your questions in the Q&A so we can have follow-up questions. If anything comes to your mind already that is also not related to the issues that will be presented here, feel free to also post them here, and we will keep them for later so we can address all the questions that you have. So I will stop my sharing and hand
Thank
it over.
you very much, Jürgen. I'm going to present a pull request regarding assisted delivery. So since 070, we have the assisted delivery, and you can configure manual approval in your deployment pipeline. And therefore, we allowed to trigger the deployment from the bridge as well as from the CLI. And we got here a request to provide another option to do the manual approval. Currently, you have been able to do this only from the environments tab, and now the request was to allow the user to provide approval also in the services view. So while you're watching at the traces here, you of course have or had the approval triggered event here, but not the option to approve this one. And another one was just better indication, since in the services view we haven't focused on the manual approval use case. Just a better indication of that events. And of course, I will do a live preview. So here on my demo environment, I have the latest bridge deployed, and in SockShop 2, I have the cart service with the configuration for production with manual approval. And you can see in the services tab now also the stage is highlighted. If you have an approval triggered here that hasn't been approved yet. This event now also shows additional information. So you see the currently deployed artifact, which is 0.11.2, and you see the deployable artifact, which is 0.11.1. And you have also the score of the evaluation that was executed here in the staging environment with this artifact. Also, in regard of this improvements, we have the same improvement also here in the environments tab. Before we just show the information of the last, if the last evaluation passed or if there was some error. Now you also have here the score, and you also see the detailed information regarding this evaluation. So you see the evaluation time frame, that was a performance test in staging. You would see the score. Actually, I have here bad example data, but yeah, you would see the score here. You would see the evaluation result, which could be pass, warning, or error. And no evaluation in this case. I have here the message because, yeah, I have nothing configured. But you would see all the details here as well. And you can approve that from this view here, or as I already have shown, you can also approve it from the services tab here, and just watch how it is going to be deployed to production. Yeah, that's from my side. If there are no questions, I'm handing over to Andreas.
Cool, thank you, Ermin. Really nice feature. So I've worked on an issue for our installer, and this installer now allows to configure a prefix in the path. And a few seconds ago, or a few minutes ago, I used our Helm chart in order to install Keptn. So what I did is an Helm upgrade with the option install, and as repository where I take the Helm chart from, I used our latest image. And here you can now configure the prefix path. So a prefix for the Keptn path. And in my case, I've chosen Keptn community meeting, which now allows me, oh, that's good. Now, which now allows me to access the Keptn bridge on the Keptn community-meeting/bridge. And this is also true for the API, of course. And by this, you get more flexibilities how you can install Keptn using this set command here. Okay, that's from my side. Any questions?
Andreas, what's actually the need of having this? I think it's also called root context.
Oh, yeah, right. It's called root context too. And the need for this is, for example, if you have an Nginx, which is here for handling the responses and the request for two applications, you could probably have clashes if you just go, if you have URLs which start with API or with bridge. So this now allows you to customize this prefix here.
Makes totally sense. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Next one is Florian.
Me. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, today I have 3 pull requests I wanted to show you. So the first one is actually quite simple, but important nonetheless. So Andy Gardner brought up this issue, which was the following. So when you queried the API or the event endpoint of the API for an event and no event has been found, the API returned a 500 error, which obviously shouldn't be the case. So that was changed to return 404. And yeah, first Imre did already some work and actually did most of the work, but there was just some minor change required in the Go utils in order to return the correct status code. That has been done. And now this get event endpoint should work as intended. Are there any questions about that? All right, if not, I will continue with a more interesting one, so to speak. So this one is a further extension of the Shipyard Controller. So if you recall the last meeting, I already presented how the Shipyard Controller manages all the open triggered events for actions that should be executed by Keptn executors. And obviously, we also need to react to the started and the finished events that come back from those services. And the way it works is the following. So when a started event is received by one of the executing services, the Shipyard Controller will check if there is a matching triggered event for that action with the triggered ID of the started event. And if a matching event has been found, then obviously it received a valid started event, and then it will persist that event in a MongoDB collection, similarly like it does with the triggered events. And then another type of events that can be received by the service are the finished events. And when the Shipyard Controller receives a finished event, it will then again check if there is a matching triggered event, and then it will fetch all the existing started events. So for each executor service that takes care of executing the related task, it will send out the start event and keep it in the collection. And when a finished event is received, it will retrieve all the started events and check if it already received a finished event for each of those started events that are currently open. So this is kind of a join synchronization mechanism. And when all started events that it previously received a finished event that correlates to that, it knows that the task has been finished, and then the triggered event can be closed. And yeah, so this is the synchronization mechanism for a single task. And during the next week, we will implement the next functionality of the Shipyard Controller, which is the controlling of the workflow or of a complete task sequence. So chaining together multiple tasks and also triggering a task sequence within the next stage if a trigger has been defined. All right. Are there any questions about that? If not,
but really impressive, because with this issue, we then exactly know if a service is running or not. So currently, as you probably know, we have the problem if tests take 10 minutes or so, we don't know are the tests running or not. And what you implemented here really gives us insights whether the tests, for example, are running. This is really nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it makes it a little bit easier to keep track of what is currently going on in terms of which actions are being executed. All
Going
right.
forward, we can also bring this information into the bridge, meaning when event gets triggered and we receive a start event, we can show an icon that is loading or yeah, doing something to indicate that there is a process going on. And yeah, that's pretty neat. Gives us a lot of more user friendly, or then we can make the bridge more user friendly.
Exactly.
I would have one question related to this. If there is if there is a starting event and the service that sent the starting event is somehow crashing and won't send the finished event, is then like this started event will be kind of an orphaned event, or it will just, you would have to restart the whole workflow, right? Or start with a new start event.
Exactly. So currently we do not have a mechanism to detect timeouts, but that will, of course, be a good extension to this service in order to handle those kind of scenarios.
Really nice question, because this is exactly the reason why we have introduced the status changed events. So then we enforce all our external services to send us a status changed event, for example, every 1 minute or something like this. And then we can prevent timeouts.
Cool.
Really good.
All right, so let's continue with the third PR. So this is an extension to the distributors. So right now, all the distributors, as they are in Keptn version 0.7, for example, require to be run within the cluster that Keptn is also installed, because they connect to the cluster internal nuts instance and then receive the distributed events from there. And in some scenarios, it might also be desirable to have the distributors or any Keptn service be run outside of the cluster. And having the new Shipyard Controller actually makes this possible, because now we have the collection of the open triggered events that indicate that the task should be executed. And this API is reachable via the public if you configure it to be so. Those events can be fetched from anywhere, and thus we have extended the distributor to include several new options to allow the distributor to fetch the events not only via nuts, but also via HTTP. And the way it will be configured is we now have this connection type that can be set as an environment variable of the distributor. And this can be set to HTTP or nuts. So nuts is the default, and if nothing is set, it will also default back to nuts. But if it's set to HTTP, it will do exactly as the variable suggests, which is pulling the events from the Shipyard Controller API. And then it can be configured with those three environment variables, which is the HTTP endpoint. This is the endpoint of the Keptn API for the triggered events. So per default, it uses the cluster internal domain for this API. Then, of course, also the auth token. If you run within the cluster, it's not needed. But if you want to fetch the events from the outside, you will need to set that accordingly. And then it's also possible to configure the HTTP polling interval. So per default, it's 10 seconds, but you can also tweak that and set it to a higher or lower value. All right. One thing that's worth mentioning here is there is one known limitation. So currently we do not support having nuts topic wildcards for retrieving the events. But since usually the Keptn services that run outside of the cluster will be dedicated to one or maybe a limited amounts of dedicated tasks, it's possible to just pass a comma separated list of topics to the pub subtopic environment variable, and then it will also be possible to subscribe to multiple topics. All right, that's it from my side. Are there any questions about this HTTP distributor?
I would have a question. So that means it's it's a different option, so it won't break the already existing implementations if you subscribe to all of the topics, but it's just a different way of doing it.
Exactly. So if you leave the configuration of the distributors as they are right now in your current installation, this new version of the distributor will default to exactly the old behavior. So nothing will break here.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
All right. And then I would like to hand over to Gabriel.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I worked on a CLI event, the get event function, which allows you to get events of any type. This was possible before with the API, but now it's in the CLI, and that's easy to use because the CLI already knows your endpoint and authentication tokens, so you don't need to go into the API and specify that yourself. And we had the CLI features before, but only for 2 events. So for the approval triggered and the evaluation done. And now you can get any event type. Let me just show you. I have no demo for that currently. So I will just show you the commands here. So you specify Keptn get event, followed by your event type. And then you can specify the project, which is mandatory. So sock shop, for example. And then you can specify more parameters like stage and service, and your output type, which can either be JSON or YAML. And you can, by default, this gives you the last event that was sent, but you can also get more than one if you specify it with another parameter, which is called page size. And yes, are there any questions about this feature or why it is useful?
I think it's a very useful feature, and it's great to have another Keptn Core developer now. So I really like this functionality.
Is there anything else, a question or?
Gabriel, I'm just curious, did you provide the documentation for the parameters in the code so that we can automatically generate the documentation?
Yes, I did. I didn't generate the documentation yet, but it's in the code, yeah.
Okay, perfect. No, we will do that when it comes to a new release of Keptn, then we will automatically generate the docs, and then it will be part of the documentation. Great.
Yes. So then I will give over to Johannes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this week I was working on one issue. I finished one issue, which is the specification for the Shipyard 0.2. Well, let's go directly to the outcome. The outcome is in the Go utils library. When you go to package, then to the lib folder, and in the lib folder you find 2 subfolders which are pointing to a version. And yeah, the Shipyard specification is in 0.2 implemented. And when you open this shipyard.go.yaml Go file, then you see the structure of the new Shipyard. Well, it's not that it's just this structure, but there was a lot of discussion going on how this should look like. And let's go to have a look on an example. Here it's documented right at the issue. Again, Shipyard will have some metadata at the top. It's about the API version, the kind, and then a block for the metadata, then the name of the Shipyard, and then the specification of the Shipyard itself consists of stages, and each stage has a name and then a property called sequences. And this is actually the part that will then configure the Shipyard controller, because this list of this list of tasks will then be executed by the Shipyard controller one by one.
And yeah, it's, I think, pretty cool when in the next week the Shipyard Controller will get the functionality to process this list so that we then can have a real example how all those finished and triggered and finished events look like. All right, yeah. When you want to work with the new Shipyard, please check out the new Go Utils library, and there you'll find it. Then, yeah, Christian Heckelmann cannot join today as he has another meeting. But Jürgen, can you give us an update on his issue? Because it's heavily related to Prometheus, and you have a lot of experience in Prometheus and also reached out to the community. Can you tell us the status?
You can open it right here, so I don't have to share my screen because it's just the documentation we still have. So Christian was updating also the issue today, and I was in contact with him. So the actual question that is still kind of open is there are two ways to deploy Prometheus. There is, let's say, the traditional way that we also made use of let me just mute my Slack or just get rid of it for a second. That we also leveraged for the current implementation of the Prometheus service, and there is a new way about to do it with the Prometheus operator. And turns out they have a little bit of different configuration options. So first of all, the Prometheus operator uses most of the configuration as secrets instead of config maps. So this is one change. That's also written here in this issue. And then there is another change which was commented by Christian a little bit later in the next comment here, that it also makes use of custom resource definitions, and it's now using service monitor and pod monitors, and it's a different behavior and a different setup than the previous traditional installation. And the question that still remains is if the Prometheus operator is actually the new way to go, and if the configurations will also kind of merge to the new way of deploying Prometheus into a Kubernetes cluster. So what we did is Christian and we reached out to the Prometheus community via their Slack channel and also via the mailing list. But we are still waiting for feedback from the Prometheus community. So if there's someone here in the call, we would be interested also in what you think, or like your opinion on the default way how to deploy Prometheus. The background for us in Keptn is that we don't want to be responsible for deploying Prometheus because usually it's a team, or it's a dedicated team or dedicated folks that are managing the Prometheus installation. So it should not be done by Keptn, because maybe it's already deployed. But with Keptn, we want to be able to configure a Prometheus configuration that's already running. And we need to make sure that we are writing the correct configuration files. So in this way, we need to make sure that it's either the service monitors or pod monitors, and if it's secrets or config maps, we just need to know which direction we are going. I see that we had probably one Prometheus expert on the call earlier, but I know that he had to drop because he's on vacation starting tomorrow, and he is busy getting his luggage packed. But if there's someone else with knowledge on this, please reach out to us or just comment on this issue. It's in our Keptn contrib repository. You can see the link here, and it's also linked in the documentation and in the meeting notes or on the project. So this was Christian. That's Christian, and is working on this, and I'm just trying to help a little bit. But that's our current. That's the current state.
Okay, thanks for the update. Perfect. Then we come to the next bullet point, which is about the roadmap. Yes, still the Keptn enhancement proposal number 6 is driving the roadmap. It's all about the Shipyard format and the Shipyard controller. Please take a look at the proposal to get involved into the discussion and also to bring in your opinion. And just a quick note, we also pulled in one additional feature. The community was asking now for a while. It's about deleting a service from a project via CLI and API. And this is also something that we want to achieve and get implemented the next couple of weeks. And going forward, you can then use the Keptn CLI command, Keptn delete service, you specify the service name, and then from which project you want to delete it. But I will come to this later on. All right, yeah, then let's go over to the working items. Let's see what has been demoed and what is still open. All right, ready for review. Here we have an issue that says research use of Argo rollouts for blue-green deployments in Canary. Andreas, what's your status on this issue?
This issue is completed and the results are described in the CAP 33. No, 23, I guess. Well, but it's linked in the issue.
All right, okay. And let's just take a brief look. The result is in CAP 23, perfect. And here you provide a link to a branch, I guess, that shows an implementation of the help deploy service. Thanks a lot. Then I will move it over to the done column, because we will take on that work when we get closer to get the CAP 23 implemented. Then Ermin, there's one issue that says wrong version in environment overview.
This was a bug and can also be moved to the done section since it's already fixed. The pull request is approved and merged. So yeah. But yeah, since it was just a bug, I haven't presented it.
All right. Yep. Let's move it over. Then we have a new feature in the CLI that allows to compile just a portion of the commands and not all of them. Andreas, what was your approach?
Yep. I therefore use build flags, and now you can combine this in IE so that, for example, the install command is not part of the CLI. So I don't need to present this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's move it over to done.
Okay, thanks. And here we have one that brings more flexibility for the install process, because here we can then configure the storage class and the persistent volume while doing an install, Keptn install. But there is still an open PR right, that Thomas should review, and we will wait until this is done. And then one additional issue that was implemented by Gabriel, thanks a lot for that. It's about fixing some error messages in the integration tests. Gabriel, what can you give us just a brief?
Yeah, sure. There were some error messages that had been thrown but weren't caught by the tests, so they were failing and the tests were still passing. So I changed that. There were some wrong exit codes as well, so just some minor bug fixes in the integration test.
All right, yep. Then I will move it over to the done section.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thanks a lot. Let's see what's in progress. First of all, again, it's issue that Gabriel is working on. And this issue is about configuring the namespace for a Keptn installation. Because by default now Keptn is installed in the Keptn namespace, and going forward we also want to provide the functionality to install Keptn in any other namespace. And Gabriel, you will implement this for the CLI.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not only the CLI, you also have to touch some other components, and this was the reason why I reduced the good first issue tag. So yeah, this is a little bit more advanced.
Okay, Gabriel, whenever you need help, please reach out to us for any question. Okay, then Florian, the Shipyard Controller.
Exactly, this is quite a big one. So this is the functionality for the Shipyard Controller to control a complete task sequence or multiple task sequences actually. Yeah, but I'm making good progress and I'm optimistic that I can present it in the next community meeting.
Cool. Then here we have one that is a chore where because when there is a remediation going on and during the remediation a problem resolved event is received by Keptn, then the color of the root event does not turn into green and it's still red, and this is giving a kind of misleading impression for the user. And we discussed to change the color of the root event whenever a problem resolved is coming in or the remediation turned into a finished with status pass.
Yeah, actually something that we haven't also considered, as Johannes described it, is if there is a problem open and after the remediation we get a problem resolved, or even the remediation itself already says that the image is okay now. Yeah, the problem was still red on the left side. And yeah, we discussed about this to make it, after the problem is resolved, green, and yeah, indicate that it was a problem open, but yeah, now it's fine again. I'm working on already on that one. I'm already, the second use case is already covered. Just one corner case that I haven't, that I'm working on. Yeah, it's not yet completely finished because of that corner case, but yeah, it's in progress, let's say.
Perfect. All right, yeah, we discussed already this issue from Christian, who is working on the Prometheus service. And here we have one for Andreas. It's about the cloud events. Yeah, the specification of the new cloud events.
So I implemented it in GoStructs, but I did not formulate the specification yet. And this is not a pressing issue now, but I will work on this.
All right. And last but not least, here we have our placeholder for the flaky integration test. Whenever you see an integration test failing, please just leave a note here to get it then addressed. All right, then let's jump over to the assigned and committed issues. I reached out to Suri and to Imre. Suri still wants to work on this one, on the YAML input support for URIs. Yeah, and I leave it where it is. But Imre told me that he wants to give this back to the backlog because he can't find time to implement it. And this is the reason why I will now move it back to the backlog. And whenever there's someone who wants to get started with a good first issue, please also consider that one and just leave a comment there and we will assign you to the issue to start working on that. Okay, then we go to the backlog itself. And now, yeah, it comes to the issues that are related to the Keptn delete service command. The first one is the handling of the command itself in the core. This means when Keptn delete service, for example, cards from project Sockshop will be executed, then an internal delete event is sent out. This one is then received by the Shipyard service, which will then call the delete endpoint from the configuration service. And finally, the configuration service then deletes the resources and the entity from the repository. The implementation of this should be aligned to deleting a project. Deleting a project currently works the same way, and it should go hand by hand. And the definition of done is that when the Keptn delete service CLI command is implemented and triggered, then it successfully deletes a service from the repository. And there should be also integration tests that cover this functionality so that we have it also tested during the daily integration tests. Who wants to work on that one the next week?
Do that.
All right, thanks. Florian. Then the implementation of the command in the CLI is explained in this issue. The idea is, to get this command implemented by introducing a new CLI command for deleting the service. Then the only parameter or flag, no, it's flag, that is required is the project flag. It's mandatory, and the implementation should then check the number of arguments and flags. And when this is as supposed to be, then the command just calls the endpoint, the delete endpoint from the API service, which will then send out the internal delete event. And then the process goes on, I showed you in the previous issue. Yeah, it's about implementing this command, creating unit tests, and then also describing the flags and the command itself so that it will then be part of the documentation when we generate the docs.
I can do it, but I can not guarantee that I finish because next week, as you all know, there's also KubeCon.
No rush. I will assign it to you, and when you find time,
Right.
then it's okay. All right, and then we have also the functionality that we will delete already deployed services via the Helm service. This means when this command is triggered, then also the Helm service receives this delete event, and whenever this event is received, then it executes a Helm uninstall, which will then uninstall the service and the service minus generated Helm chart from the cluster.
I would like to also do this.
Thanks a lot. Move it over. Cool. Then here we have an issue that's related to the bridge. It's about a misleading message in the bridge. Because when you did not send or when the bridge did not receive a deployment finished event, then it still shows the message service not deployed. But this must not be true when you are using the bridge, for example, for a quality gates only use case or for performance as a self-service use case where you have deployed your service somewhere else and not by Keptn, but still want to use the bridge for doing the evaluation. And yeah, Ermin and we discussed how to handle that, because we now take a look whenever a deployment finished event or an evaluation started event is received, and this event contains the image and tag, then we will display this here. Otherwise, we will not show any information there.
Yeah, I will take it as we discussed it already. You can assign it to me.
Okay. Then the next one is, this is a technical one and not user-facing issue for the bridge.
Yeah, I'm already also working on that one actually, since I am in contact with the Barista components team.
Perfect.
Because yeah, that's something that needs to be fixed for the barista components, actually. Yeah.
Cool. All right, then we have a next one that is user facing. It's about showing a failed quality gate also in the environment screen. This means when you have a quality gate that failed in any stage, and you see this in the services view, then you should also get a notification and an indication here in the environment screen. And this is done by the traffic light. Whenever the traffic light turns into red, it is an indication that there is something broken and a quality gate is broken. The number next to it shows how many quality gates are currently not passed. And when you click on this stage, you get more information about the actual service, which artifact was not passing the quality gate, and finally also the outcome, meaning the number of, or the score that has been achieved, the result. Correct.
Okay. Since it's already, since it's again in the bridge, I will take that one, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then very close to that one is the next one, which is about showing open remediations in the environment screen. And I think I don't have to repeat myself. Just 2 sentences. When there is a remediation that is ongoing and the services screen is showing that, then also the environment screen should present this information. And this is then done by the first icon, which is here the exclamation mark. When this one turns into red, then a user should know that there is a problem that is currently going to be resolved. Yeah, and here is the functionality when you click on a stage.
Yeah, I will take care of that one as well.
Thank you very much, Ermin. Cool. All right. Then we have one left that has the next sprint assigned. Yep, this one was pulled in by Jürgen. Jürgen, can you give us a quick update, or can you explain what need to be implemented here?
Sure. So actually, it's not intended to be an implementation task, but it's more probably a documentation task or just a checklist. So we are required to fulfill the continuous or the core infrastructure best practices. So we are listed here on this website, and it's a requirement for being accepted as an incubating project for the CNCF state, for the CNCF incubating stage. And we are quite good on the score already. So we already have a score of 95%, but we still miss 3 requirements that are security related. And that doesn't mean that we are not yet already satisfying these requirements, but when I went through this list, I was not sure if we are satisfying this. So actually the task here on this item is to walk through these 3 items and take a look if we are implementing the security requirements for these 3 requirements. So the first one talks about that we are not allowed to use any broken cryptographic algorithms like MD5 or older parts. So if we are not doing this, then it's fine, and we can basically check the first requirement. The second one is that we should implement forward secrecy for key agreement protocols. I guess we are using these kind of things for maybe for our WebSockets, but I'm actually not sure. So this also has to be investigated how we are using it and if we fulfilling this requirement already. And the third one is about storing of passwords for authentication for external users. I think we are storing these passwords for either the Keptn bridge and the CLI, or for both. And also here we have just to satisfy how we are, or to describe and clarify how we are storing this. And as it says here, they must be stored as an iterated hash with a per user salt. Since we don't have this user, we only have one user that is using Keptn. It's only one password. So probably for us, it's a little bit different. So we can argue that it's only one user, and we don't have a user management for Keptn yet. So probably we're already satisfying those requirements. But as I'm not as knowledgeable about the Keptn source code anymore, I was opening this as an issue.
All right, just one question. Is there a time pressure on this issue? Do we need it by next week?
No, we don't need it by next week. So if we have it by in 2 weeks, that's also fine.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know it might need some more detailed analysis of the source code. And, yeah, I would need help here from the Keptn team.
Okay. Yeah. Then I will assign this issue to myself. But since I'm out of office the next week, I will start working on that one the week after. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks a lot to everyone who has committed to and who has shown commitment to an issue. Again, quick reminder: when you want to get started with a good first issue, here I have 2 in the backlog. Just leave a note there. Tell us that you want to work on that, and then we assign you to the issue, and you can start implementing it. All right.
Johannes, can I jump in here?
Sure.
Because you're already sharing your screen, and Akil is on the call, and he indicated in the beginning that he would be interested in the auto remediation features of Keptn. And since it's kind of a brand new feature, and you already explained it and presented it in one of the previous community meetings, I would ask you just maybe give a very brief overview how we are basically tackling this the problem of automated remediations, and how we are doing this in Keptn, and then also actually you can ask your questions right away here. We have a couple of minutes left, and probably also one very short note. So we are in this community meetings, we are mostly discussing about the Keptn core functionality, but we also know there is a lot of things going on in the Keptn community around integrations to Keptn. We have folks here on the Keptn community call that are working on integrations with other automation platforms like Ansible Tower to integrate this into the remediation workflow of Keptn. So that's also a great starting point or a great interaction point with Keptn and external tools. And we know there's also folks out there in the Keptn community that are working on integrating Keptn into Slack and writing Slack bots. So we also really appreciate this work. And but these Keptn community calls, when we discuss the issues and features, we mostly discuss about Keptn core functionalities, but there is more out there. I just want to mention.
All right, yeah, and one reference I would recommend to get started with the remediation use case is a blog post on Medium. Just check out medium.com/Keptn, and there you find the blog post, which is called Closed Loop Remediation with Custom Integrations. And let me use this blog post to explain this capability of Keptn, because here we can skip this part. It's just the intro and some explanation. But the core principle of Keptn's capability for triggering remediation actions is about declaring your operations as code. I will show you. Then having automatic build blocks that take care of actions that are triggered as response to a problem. And finally, you can also use Keptn to do an evaluation of your remediation actions to figure out whether the result and the outcome is what you want to have. And now let's get started. First of all, you configure your remediation for your service by providing this kind of remediation file. This file has a version, a kind, and some metadata, and the specification itself then consists of a list of remediations, and here you specify for which problem type you want to act on. In this case, it's a response time degradation. And when this problem is received by Keptn, then Keptn takes care of executing those actions that are listed here. And the action itself has a name, user-facing or a human readable description, and then here a unique name, which will then be sent over to the action provider. And this is kind of the declaration of what should be done in case of a problem. And when this problem occurs, then let's jump over to the automatic build blocks, because when this problem occurs, then Keptn sends out an event, and this event will then be received by an action provider. And here is explained how this action provider works. And finally, this one should take care of getting your problem resolved and also will respond with an action .finished. And when this event is received by Keptn, then Keptn will do the evaluation part and will try to figure out whether it solved the problem or not. Yeah, this is a kind of starting point for getting more information about this capability, but we also have documentation at the official Keptn page, Keptn documentation page. And when you go to the 0.7 release, and when you go to automated operations, here again, you find the documentation how to specify your remediation config. And here is the documentation how you set up an action provider. We provide two types of action providers, which is the Unleash and the Helm action provider, but you can come up with any kind of provider when you want to implement it, and then you just hook it into Keptn, and then your provider takes care of doing the action. Actually, Gabriel is writing an action provider for Ansible Tower. This means when Keptn sends out an action triggered event to Gabriel's service, then Gabriel, the Ansible Tower service, will execute a remediation scenario in Ansible. And we're looking forward to see this in action. I know this was now a very brief intro, but when you need more information about the remediation workflow, please reach out to me via Slack, and I'm more than happy to give you more insights.
Great, thank you. Akhil, if you have any more questions, I also posted the Slack URL here, so you can join us in Slack. And also, I posted the link to the Medium blog article that Johannes wrote. Are there any more questions or general comments since we're already hitting the top of the hour? We are basically also hitting the end of this community meeting. I think there are no more agenda items left. If we scroll on the bottom of this here. So we are basically good for 1 week of KubeCon and Cloud Native Con next week. We are pretty excited. So as said, we have the Keptn booth. Also, it will be a virtual booth. We have folks from the Keptn core team. We have folks from the Keptn community in this booth. Basically, they are staffing this booth and are happy to answer the questions. We will be happy to see you there next week. And also, we are hosting another Keptn community meeting in next week. So so there are no more questions. Join us again next week. And yeah, we are happy to see you there. Andreas?
So next week, as far as I know, Christian is not here, Johannes is not here, myself, I'm not here, and KubeCon is. So maybe we should think of postponing it.
Sure. Let us probably have this discussion also in Slack. So if someone that is not joining here, but we can also cancel next week's sync and then sync up again on the 27th of August. I think it's a valid option to have an open discussion in Slack. But please, Andreas, go ahead and suggest to cancel this.
Yeah.
So either way, you will find out in Slack, slack.keptn.sh. So yeah, have a nice evening and see you during KubeCon. Bye.
See you. Bye.